that needs to be fed. It's causing chaos everywhere I land. I got a fever. I got a fever.
Good evening, everybody. This is Jordan with Ohio Sports Talk, with once again being joined by far into the benches. Jimmy Pilato is with us. Jimmy, we had a big weekend. We had a big weekend in sports.
Yes.
And I can't wait to touch into it. But how are things in your neck of the woods, first and all?
Things are going well. We got 2 more days until winter break, and I'll be able to take a breath and relax. We got a couple wrestling tournaments coming up. Other than that, it's just a lot of work right now, and making sure I'm also trying to get my master's degree. So trying to balance time between all of the different things has been hectic, but that's kind of, I try and live the stoic mindset and the philosophy of doing something every day, because I've been in places where I wasn't doing things every day and it wasn't good. So I'm working, but I'm busy, and that's how I like it. So I'm on with you tonight. I was on with Nico last night. We had an extra show because we're doing our big bracket show Thursday live, and we're bringing back a couple of our former guests that have been on. It's our 5th annual show, so everybody check that out. If you haven't listened to us yet, we do have some good college football debates. Nico won the belt last year, which I don't know how he did it. It pisses me off. He watches college football like I watch college basketball. He just doesn't. It's a little ridiculous, but no, that's where I'm sitting right now. I'm ready to get when we're done here. I'm ready to get back on the sticks and continue on. I'm in a 10-year dynasty with Permian, because I'm weird like that, and I like to download movie teams that I watched. So that's all I'm sitting at. That's what I'm enjoying right now.
And hey, I'm all about that. Brackets for what, if I can ask?
College football playoff.
College football playoffs. Okay,
that's
what I thought. But I just
last few years we've been doing bowl pick'em shows, and that's been difficult. If you go back and find those, good on you, and watch them in chunks, because they're 4 hours long. We were trying, and initially, me, I'm going to watch all the bowl games, so I'm going to pick every single bowl game. And we tried to do that the first year, and then we're sitting there 6 hours later, and it's the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I'm like, I don't know. Kent State, why not? Kent State, let's go. But now we got the set games. We're going to pick all of the rounds of the bracket. We'll probably give some betting picks for the first round, because the lines are out, and I was looking at those a little bit earlier today. It'll be interesting to see how the first round shakes out, and I'm sure we'll have to talk about that, because as we all know, and as people have been pointing out in my comments, it's funny. People think I love the Ohio people finding our page and trying to, they get pretty upset. It's not hard to clickbait you guys into getting upset. So I did that on a couple of our videos, and then they're arguing with each other in the comments. Ohio State fans are arguing with each other, and then I just drop in a "Go Blue." It's like, oh yeah, go Blue! Enjoy the bowl loss to Alabama. I was like, it doesn't really bother me. I don't really like Michigan all that much, and I just like chaos. I'm the Joker watching the $100,000 burn. I don't care.
Some men just like to watch the world burn. That is 110% true there. Ohio State fans, we're not clickbait. We're just passionate, Jimmy. It's
very passionate. And when I say that, they're a disgrace, it sucks, because I hate them even more now because of the guy. I've never liked Ryan Day. I didn't like him when he got hired. He just has something about him that I didn't like. I didn't like Urban either, because Urban's a bit of a strange character. I feel like if he coaches your team and he does well, then you like him. But Urban, even the players that he had play for him, aren't necessarily the fondest of memories that they have. But Ryan Day made that entire program just eat so much shit for the last 3 weeks. And if it doesn't happen this weekend, it will continue. And actually, it might not even continue. I think if it doesn't happen this weekend, that's going to be the first topic of next week, is who's going to be the next coach.
Well, Jimmy, we're hot on it. So let's just jump right in it. We finally made it. We, as an Ohio State fan myself, right here, in the Cincinnati area, formerly Dayton area as well, I had to wait. We had to wait 2 weeks. We weren't part of the Big Ten championship game, so we had to watch, championship week. Yes. The tears are real. Let me get some, like I did in boot camp when I used to steal the little hot sauce from the MRE packets to stay awake in class. Let me get the hot sauce going in my eyes. But we we talked about it last week. We got selected against Tennessee, and we're finally here. So the talking in my mind between the teams, it should be done. It's been hardcore prep week.
Yeah.
Ohio State, they made some statements this week about maybe tweaking offensive line. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. What we have
right now, it's tough. At this point, it's tough. I guess what I'm thinking about in this game is that what we talked about with Ryan Day and Ohio State, and I think it goes for both teams, is that you can't coach with your ego. That was the biggest downfall in that rivalry game against Michigan. It's been Josh Heupel's biggest downfall with the Tennessee team that he has. He has a great running back, yet he refuses to run. He wants to run this spread the ball out and throw. Well, that's Ohio State's game. They are a little bit weaker in the trenches, and you might have an advantage there. Who's going to take advantage of their skill set? Because Ohio State should have the same exact game plan that they should have had for Michigan, where they just throw the ball out to their athletes, get them in space, and let's see how fast you really are. That's where this team is dangerous. That's where they're the best, and that's where they can win at home. Getting the home game I thought that they possibly would have fallen all the way out of having a home game in the first round. I feel like that's the biggest thing that is going to be helpful for them this weekend, is that they don't have to travel and they get that extra home crowd. So I do think that they have a really good chance, but is Ryan Day going to get out of his own way? Is he going to let his ego go and coach the way that this team is going to be successful? Is he going to let Chip Kelly coach?
That now on paper, they're saying all the right things. Chip Kelly's been, they've all been on the press market for the last 10 days. Chip Kelly has acknowledged that, we're not getting the ball to his playmakers, aka all the guys on the outside, Smith, Ibaka, just about everybody else but a running back, really, that we really didn't get it to. He's openly admitted it. We've heard it. From what I'm hearing in the local market, the practices have been primarily getting the guys to the outside, getting the playmakers in those jet motions, a lot of those little pitches. It's counted as a pass, but really, it's a shuffle. I call it the shuffle truffle. It's a little up forward. Get those guys in space, get the offensive line grooving, suck those linebackers in, and then do what we do best all year long. And even against Oregon's defense, do what we do best. Take what they give you, slice the zone, and get down to the end zone, and then play a little bit of bully ball if you have to with the running backs that we have. Because we do have Judkins, we do have Henderson. They're great ball runners when you need them, but it's got to be set up. We're the opposite. A lot of teams, get the pass going by getting the run game established. Ohio State's a little bit different. We get the run game going by getting the pass going. When we get those guys out of the box, when we force them to double team Smith, when we force them, to play double coverage on Ibaka and get all the other guys involved, then we can hit them with the run. When that box opens up, we get those big guys going. We get that center going. I know, he played center all last year. He played guard this year. And now he's back at center. So the experience is there. There's no need to experiment in my mind. Get this going. Use the same formula that got you to the playoffs, that got you, it was a 1-point loss to Oregon because we got out coached, but the game was there and winnable. Use the same formula that gets you, keeps you in the game, keeps you fresh, uses your best skill set. We know Howard's not a miraculous guy in the pass. He's not a total miraculous guy with mobility, but he's a guy that can deliver because of skill set. These are NFL receivers all across the board. He's got these guys ready, and just use it and rock and roll. The defense, we know what the defense is. The secondary is their strong point. The defensive pass rush is mediocre for Ohio State. It is. It's
just not there. And there's a lot that this team is. It's weird how underdeveloped they are at very important positions, and it is an indictment. It's why I think it's not necessarily the Michigan loss that's going to cost this coaching staff their jobs. It's the fact that they had Kyle McCord last year. They have Will Howard this year. They have yet, in my mind, to put their quarterback that they have in the best position for them to succeed. So, and you ran a guy out of there for one bad throw in a game that was really close to the eventual national champion, and now you're having that added, difficulty, they have millions of dollars everywhere else except for at the quarterback position with Will Howard. Well, you better learn how to make him shine in this offense, which is those bubble screens. If he gets hot, he plays well. He played really well against that Oregon defense, and Oregon's defense, it gave up quite a bit of points to Penn State in the Big Ten championship. I wouldn't say that it's the greatest, but it's not bad. They have a lot of speed, but you got to be able to coach the guys that you have on the field. At this point, this coaching staff needs to be gifted the keys to a Ferrari, and then they can take credit for a victory, because that's all they've been able to really do. They don't develop. The guys that they've had in their system never beat Michigan. And that's, if you're going to be looking anywhere to compare yourself, that's a school that's getting guys in the program and developing them in the right ways. And that's something that Ohio State has not done. And that could end up being the Achilles heel at some point in this playoff.
Yeah, I understand that, but Kyle McCord, I want to go back to just a little side comment. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but of course, you do get a rebuttal from what I'm about to say. There was more behind that than just the bad throw against Michigan in the game. I also look at how young McCord was. Opting out of the bowl game against Missouri was kind of strike one in my mind. Devin Brown should have never played that game. Especially you want to come back next year and be a starter and, ask the coach for all these guarantees in this new NIL world that we live in. You want money. You want to be guaranteed that you're number one going into camp, if not number one going into the season. But you want to opt out and do some pussy shit, in my mind, because nobody from the Missouri team opted out. That whole team showed up for the bowl game. It actually meant something to them. And, before the NIL and really kind of before this playoff system, bowl games used to mean something to every team. It was an extension of your season regardless of where you finished. It wasn't always a national championship. But no, I don't remember in our era watching it in the 90s, late 90s, mid 2000s, even in the later 2000s, 12, 13, 14, 15, even 16 with the inception of the 4-team playoffs, which Ohio State was the first winner, by the way. But, I don't see, you didn't see guys opt out. You saw, I remember, Ohio State played in the fucking Holiday Bowl, and, the seniors were there, everybody played, everybody was pumped up, everybody was happy. We made a Tostitos Bowl that wasn't part of the national championship in the Jim Trussell era. Everybody loved it. Everybody was happy. The Sugar Bowl against Arkansas, regardless if it was vacated during the Jim Trussell era, everybody was there.
I'm not going to defend a guy that sits out. I'm not going to sit here and defend a guy that sits out, but I am going to say that the programs that you're mentioning that got guys to play in these, quote, meaningless bowl games, it was a different time back then, and it meant a little bit more. I have a extra point to make on top of this, but those guys cared about their program. So if these guys are opting out of this game, obviously the coaching staff has not instilled the love of the program that he needed to, and maybe he tried and it just was falling on deaf ears. That could be a possibility. I'm not necessarily sitting there and trying to put all the blame on them, but the culture is such that you play in the bowl game. The culture for that Florida team that got beat in the SEC championship, that went out and beat up on that Cincinnati team in the bowl game, Tim Tebow was out there, and so was Percy Harvin. They were playing because it was their last chance to play for a school that they loved. If you're getting guys that opt out, they obviously aren't in love with what you're doing. And in my mind, the guarantees, I'm not going to sit here and say that I agree with all the guarantees, but I am going to sit here and say I've been in a college football meeting room where a coach has looked us all dead in the face and said, I'm not going anywhere. We're starting our build now. Offseason starts now. And we got called back in the same day, Jordan, the same day. And we were told that he was taking another job because his buddy got a head coaching gig somewhere else. So I see it from that point of view. Like, if these guys can get up and leave, why can't I make that decision for myself? At some point, if it's not working out, we see it in the NFL all the time. We're going to talk about a couple teams that never rip the Band-Aid off, and they just sit in this same situation year in and year out. Pulling a Band-Aid might be the best thing for that person. It might not work out, but I see it from that side of things where, like, everything can change in an instant. So you might as well look out for yourself, especially in this era where you can actually do something for yourself and your family.
And I understand that too, but that's where I say, McCord kind of showed himself halfway out the door. Ryan Day shoved him the rest of the way out, but you can't come in and, demand a bunch of things when you didn't finish the season, in my opinion. Had he finished the season, I think he would have stayed. I think he would have stayed. I think they would have hashed something out. They would have stayed. I think they would have beat Missouri. And, that restarts the season with a whole different mindset than, Ohio State went to another bowl game against an SEC team and did what Ohio State loves to do, which is not beat an SEC team, because that narrative continued in the local market where I'm at. That narrative came back up, and that was a high narrative under the Trussell era before we got players like Troy Smith and Terrell Pryor through the door. We continuously struggled against SEC powers. They said, SEC speed in the Big Ten slow. That was a narrative for almost a decade. When you look at the Ohio State matchups against LSU, Ohio State matchup against Florida, when we absolutely got mopped, but it just didn't make sense for me to keep McCord there, especially with how arrogant that he came off. And I'm sure the coaching staff spun it a little bit more negative than what really happened, because there are two sides to every story. But and there is. I'm sure McCord's camp was probably a little less aggressive than what came across, the storyline. But at the end of the day, we had to make the best decision for the team, and the best decision for the locker room was to get McCord out the door.
And I think he made the best decision for himself. He went to a place where he was the starter the entire season, had a great season, and ended up winning a few big games. At some point, I feel like it's, college football sometimes does reflect a lot of what the nation is going through, and it's so divisive. Everybody can do different things and still work out. There's a million different ways that you can run this thing. Not everybody has to do it the exact same way and think the exact same way as you do, because every program is different. And thankfully, with this playoff system, there's going to be different ways that you can open yourself up to winning a championship and getting into the playoffs and getting this extra money for postseason. That's a huge thing. If you're going to give Ohio State credit and this coaching staff credit for anything, is at least they got to the playoff. They are on the home side of this first round. And then if you make it to the second round, which, it's not like they're unexpected to do, then you get that extra bit of money and you get to go to the extra national exposure. This is huge for recruiting, and Ohio State doesn't necessarily need all that much help with recruiting, but I'm thinking about programs like Boise State and Arizona State in the first season or the first couple seasons underneath these coaching regimes. This is going to be huge for them. That's what I'm most excited about for this playoff. And I'm excited to see, I don't know what the all-time series is against Tennessee and Ohio State. They've both been around forever, so I assume they've played before.
Yeah.
He has the same feelings I do.
So highly moved on. Ohio State moves on against Tennessee. Well, here's the tail end of this. Conversation. I kind of threw my prediction probably a little bit too early for the show's sake last week, but I think Ohio State moves on past Tennessee. Tennessee's 2-2 on the road. They have a true freshman at quarterback. Doesn't play particularly well, not at home. And I think that he's going to have a little bit of a coming out party, Jimmy. I'm not taking everything away from him, especially for the national media and exposure. But Ohio State's strength is their secondary, regardless of how you feel about them. With Caleb Downs and company, we definitely, this game is going to go to what Ohio State does best, and that's defending the pass on a consistent basis.
Hopefully,
they have a little bit of bend, don't break, but I feel it. These guys, Burke and company, they're going to be ready. It's not going to be a big deal when it comes to keeping Tennessee off the board just enough.
I have a feeling that Sawyer is going to be a man possessed because of all, he's taken the brunt of everything that's gone on ever since that rivalry loss because he was involved in the post-game issue. I feel like this is going to be a moment where he steps up, and I've been talking about it. I also agree with you. I think that Ohio State is probably going to be able to move on. I'll save my score prediction for my show because I'm trying to be a good producer for my content as well. But I just think that Ohio State is going to win with their linebackers shutting down whatever run game and Tennessee might try and establish. That's the thing, is that you never know if they're actually going to try and establish a run game. If Sampson gets going, Sawyer is going to be the guy that's tasked to slowing him down. And I have to think in his last run as a Buckeye, he's going to want to make the plays and be that guy to, really write history. That's his opportunity now. You tried to write history against Michigan and it didn't work out for you. And now you have a chance to write history and not only make it to the second round of the playoff. If you make it to the second round, everybody's been talking the last few weeks. That draw that Oregon has is shitty as a number 1 seed. That is tough. Either of these teams from this matchup going into the second round are going to be a nightmare. This is not a reward for winning the Big Ten championship. So Ohio State, get yourself going, get some momentum going, because it's going to be a long haul. There's still a month and a half of this left to go. We don't finish until damn near February.
This is also very true. But my prediction, I think Ohio State wins 35-21, 35-28 if Tennessee makes things interesting. But I think Ohio State plays ahead of the sticks and ahead of the score. So they go to that bend, don't break zone that that 2-minute zone that I hate to see consistently.
A lot of yards.
And they're going to give up a lot of yardage.
And if you can't tackle, if you miss a tackle on one of those plays, there's so much space and you have no other defenders around you. You have to be good at your one-on-one tackling. So I hope that that's all they're doing in that secondary. I think that they're good on their coverage, but using the sideline to your advantage, because normally an offensive spread set goes to like hash and numbers. They go sidelines hash. That's how far and much space that you're playing with. That's something, you don't really see that unless you're a very defensive-minded person. You've coached on that side of the ball. But, like, watching it as an offensive lineman, I'm like, we better be damn good at our one-on-one pass pro, and hopefully one of these guys can come free in 3 seconds. Because if they can come free in 3 seconds, there's a lot of space.
Being a defensive coach myself, it does drive me crazy. But we're going to put a bow on this, Jimmy. We're going to move on. I'm not going to press you for it. Maybe
Ohio State wins. I'll give you that much.
All right. We both agree on that. Check out Jimmy on Far End of the Bench. He'll tell you when and where at the end of our program. But Jimmy, we had another big college game this weekend.
Yeah, and you're very happy about it.
My Navy finally, after 3 years, Jimmy, we got the monkey off our back. But in a big way. Army came in top 25 ranked number 22 in the nation. So this was not a pushover game on paper, nor, my prediction on our show. I thought it was going to fly, but I had Navy by 3. So the fact that they absolutely dominated defensively, got Army to turn. I know it goes down as a statistical, another interception, but that third interception in the fourth quarter, it's kind of trash time. We know what they have to do down so many scores. They're in a pass-only situation. So, it goes down on paper, but those 2 interceptions earlier in the game, those are the ones I really look at as just absolute upset. Over 200 yards on the ground for the Navy quarterback.
Blake Horvath was my player of the week on our show. He had 200 yards rushing, 100 yards passing, 100 yards. Oh, and by the way, a 52-yard passing touchdown.
On 9 attempts, on 9 completions, 15 attempts, 9 completions, over 105 yards passing total, and a touchdown that broke deep. That's something you don't really see, folks, in this head-to-head battle. But damn, what a beautiful game by Navy. Really hats off to their coordinators. I hope they can keep it for one more year. I know it's usually a stepping stone when you come to an academy program and, take a coordinating job, especially in today's age, when the Army Navy is kind of the recruiting is a little bit different. They have to come at it. We still have height and weight standards. So we're not playing with the big boys when it comes to the offensive line, defensive linemen. There's a little portal clause that some academy players this year can opt into. I think it's kind of bullshit when you sign a contract to serve your country. You shouldn't be able to opt out. But this is the world we live in when it comes to, college sports is still more of a business than anything. But going back to the actual game, damn, it just up and down. I couldn't believe it. Just everything I was seeing.
It was a mirror image of each other, and that's what this game is all the time. You get no better scheme matchup than this one, especially. I think I'll have a question for you towards the end of the segment because I was intrigued when I heard this. But having it being played at the end of the season, these are 2 teams that they're comfortable in their offense and they're comfortable in their defensive scheme. You out-armied Army at their game. You shut down their Captain America quarterback. bloodied him up in the first half. It was very evident that Navy's scheme and Navy's game plan was to play the spoiler. They played as the underdog. They fought kind of dirty. There's a lot of chippiness. I love it. I love it. But there's a lot of chippiness. They stepped on they got an offensive lineman to step on Bryson's hand in the first half and made him bleed, and then forced him into passing situation.
Everybody has an inner Ndamukong and from the Detroit years, but
it was. I'm a guy that played that same way. And when you're the little team going up against the big dogs, and that's what this matchup was this year, because not only, I don't know if you heard this, and then they mentioned it like 50 different times during the broadcast, which I watched back, by the way. That's how much I love college football. It was 9:30 when I watched this game back because I didn't get to watch it live, and they're sitting there, and the Army offensive line is the Joe Moore Award winners. Army offensive line is the best unit in college football. They're number one. You can't beat them. They're the best. And Navy's defensive line took that very personally, and they made a lot of plays in the backfield. I don't think that I've ever seen Army not be able to run the football in the last 4 years since they broke their streak the other way. Because I remember, I grew up, Navy always beat Army, whether it was close, whether it was a big blowout. Navy was the dominant of the two service academies, and it's flipped now. But, you out-armied Army at their own game, and you played a physical brand of football. You were playing to the whistle, maybe a little bit after in some cases, but that's exactly what you had to do in those games, and it paid off in the fourth quarter because it was a 3-point game on Heidenreich's 52-yard touchdown reception. It was a very tight ball game up until that point. Nobody had really broken away, and Army still had a chance if they could stop turning the ball over, yet you miss one tackle in the open field, the only tackle that you really miss all day, and Navy made you pay.
And that's the truth. Just all around great performance. I don't condone play like that, especially as a coach myself. But I know it happens. I know it happens both ways. But this game it's so emotional because it's really a 2 to 3 hour buildup with the festivities. You have what's called the prisoner exchange when each academy kidnaps some other cadets from the other side of the academy. They make them run damn near. It used to be in your boxers and maybe a t-shirt. I think they're fully clothed now, but used to run to the other side blindfolded. Times are a little softer, but you have that exchange. You have the prayer that's a little bit more extensive. So you have the Navy this year was done by an Army chaplain correction that came out and did a beautiful job. You just have the extension. You obviously have the national anthem. Not the sitting president, but you have the commander in chief to be president-elect in the audience. You have the vice president-elect in the audience. Getting people fired up. First Marine ever to hold a position larger than senator, J.D. Vance. So J.D. Vance sitting on the Navy side for a majority of the game. Make no mistake about it, because for people that don't know, at the end of your time in the academy for the Navy, you can take a Marine Corps commission if you so choose so. Just because you go to the Navy Academy doesn't mean you are a sailor. You can take that Marine Corps commission, put on those beautiful blues, and be a real man. But it was fun to see JD Vance get into
I'm
it.
Not involved in that at all. That's all you.
Chugging the beer, JD Vance getting involved in it, fist bumping the cadets coming out of the blocks. So you had a lot of emotion going into it. So it's like I said, it's an all day affair, and just really happy to see Navy, finally get the 3 years off our back. First winning season in a couple years. So we're bowl eligible. That's going to be fun.
The commander in chief is back. You got that trophy back.
We got the trophy back. Comes home to Annapolis. Definitely another.
It's been living in Colorado Springs for a while. I don't know if you know that.
It's been there too damn long. I know that much.
Well, what can I say? Those Air Force boys, they're smart, and they normally beat the other service academies. I'm just saying.
But
and they fly cooler planes.
Cooler plane. I don't know if anything's cooler than an F-22 that can just take off without a runway. But those are the ones.
You know a little bit more about all the toys. You know more about all the toys that I don't get access to. You have the classified information. That's not fair.
I don't know if I have the class. I was just an enlisted man.
The F-22 is so powerful that we literally have to go out there when we use it, and it's blindfolded. Like you can't use the radar that we have equipped for it unless you're directly attacked. Well, nobody can see me coming, so nobody's going to attack me. Exactly.
Maybe we'll start shooting down some drones, but that's a separate conversation. Maybe I'll make a separate podcast where we can just talk just what we think off the top of our heads. But yeah,
just talk Army and Navy without getting a little political.
Well, you do. Like I said, it was President-elect was there. The sitting commander and Clown was not there for the third consecutive year. Most missed games ever by any sitting president. Really sad to see. Even FDR during his polio years made it to the game in a damn wheelchair. So I just feel like anybody doesn't have an excuse after that. So that's just my opinion, folks. You can put it in the comment section. I love stirring the pot up. Give me the heat. I can take it. But we'll wrap a bow on this. Go ahead and ask you. You said you had a question for me.
I know that this game means a lot. My issue with this year was it was not on its own day because there were other bowl games that were being taken place. This is also the first day of the transfer portal, so the news breaks a little bit before the game that Bo Perbula from Penn State enters the transfer portal. It seems to me like it's losing. This is Army and Navy's day. So it was proposed on a show that I listened to that instead of having this be after the regular season, why not move everything off of week 0? Everybody else in Division I is totally off and put Army Navy week 0 because then it's the official kickoff of college football. It's America's game. You'll be able to have NFL commissioner there. You'll be able to fly in. Like it's designated on this day. Everybody's going to be here in attendance. I don't know how the teams would feel about it because like I said at the beginning of the segment, I think they enjoy having this at the end where they can make sure that their team is primed and oiled and ready to go. But honestly, you know exactly what they're going to if these two teams came out of fall camp and played each other, that's the perfect setup because when you play fall camp, you play against your own defense. And guess what? When you line up in this game, you're playing against your own defense. So, hey, I don't know. What are I'm interested to get your thought on that. What would you think about moving it from the end of the season to week 0?
Because they're in the same conference, that kind of tears me a little bit because, there was a point in the season where Navy was in the top 25 just as well as Army. And, before Navy went on their little losing skid against Notre Dame and other bigger conference teams, we thought we were going to see it twice, Jimmy. Yeah. There was a preview where it was going to be the American Conference championship game and then the Presidential Bowl championship game where the presidential trophy comes home and one of them's going to hurt the other one's feelings maybe twice, but to open up against it, I wouldn't disagree with it, but that clip that I posted on Ohio Sports Talk's Twitter page, the referee for the Division II game, the first penalty that was thrown, he did stop the game completely, gave a salute and, thanked all the armed forces in recognition that game shouldn't be being played at that moment. So there was recognition throughout the Division II game that they were in the wrong for holding that game at the same time as the Army-Navy game. So I think that maybe next year that it won't happen. I think the schedules will be kind of cleared.
How else can it not happen? Because now, like I said, you have the transfer portal. So either you eliminate the transfer window at this point in the season, then everybody has to wait till after second semester starts, and that's not going to go well for all these teams that want to bring in transfers. Like the reason why everything got condensed down to this point is because now we have the extended playoff. Like we were saying, they play until February. So knowing that everything is changing, and I know that college football hates to change their traditions, and I'm not one to sit here and say that I'm in favor of all these changes, but if it's changing the way that it is, and now we're going to get into a collective bargaining agreement with the revenue sharing, you are probably going to have to adjust your traditional sports calendar. And if you want this to be a standalone game, there is a spot that it's available for a standalone game, and then everything kind of you can breathe at the end of the season. I would hate to be a college coach for no other reason than you have to go into the transfer portal, try and compete for a playoff spot, or possibly get ready for a bowl game all at the same exact time, and you have no clue who's going to be there.
But why can't the window open on a Sunday?
Even if
Why can't the window open?
I just
why can't
think
the
that
window open?
it's not whether
right after
the window
game
opens on
because-
the Saturday of the game or the Sunday. It's the fact that it's this week of the season. You should not have the transfer portal open before the playoffs are over because we don't know what the outcomes are. Maybe Drew Aller is going to get hurt. Knock on wood, God forbid, not rooting for somebody to get hurt. But Bo Bubula is transferring because he doesn't think that he's going to get a shot in these nationally televised games or not get the shot that he wants. It could happen. He should have the ability to stay on his team. He doesn't have the ability to do that right now. And I know we had the conversation about wanting to transfer and everything like that. It's just the way the world is and the way that the sport is going at this point. It's not the day that it opened. It's the week that the weeks that you don't have in the season anymore. And the very difficult decisions that these kids, 20-year-old kids, are having to make.
Right, but I think for the Presidential Bowl being the season ender, I think it stays at least during. And I don't want to get too political. I think it stays during this presidency. I think the president and especially the vice president will have something to say about that will resonate through the NCAA and college sports because under the Obama administration. You look at Condoleezza Rice and all the people that they inherited for that first college playoff committee was kind of a little bit of a political bend there too. So I think during the second Trump presidency, especially how he holds the game dear to him because he never missed one even in the 2020s when he wasn't president. And I think when push comes to shove, at least for the next 4 seasons, that I think they're going to bully college football and say that this is the game. This is where it's going to end, and this is tradition. I think that's going to trump the business side of what now is the NIL. And like you said, the collective bargaining agreement is still in play. So, make no mistake that J.D. Vance or somebody, on his staff isn't going to make a phone call and say, hey, this has got to be something that's got to be on the table to keep us being, the season closer because tradition is tradition is tradition. And, you look at
with traditions.
You don't fuck with tradition. You don't fuck with military tradition, especially.
I want to make sure that I say this too. I know that every single person that I'm pissing off right now saying that this game should be moved can kill me with a napkin. I fully appreciate that. I'll try and give you my best fight. All I got is a wrestling coach though. I know very well where I stand in this scenario, and I am just a civilian talking about this. But I am also still trying. I don't know. Part of the traditionalist in me hated the fact that I had to pay attention to more. It's not the Heisman Trophy ceremony was afterward, and I guess it normally falls around this time. It just seemed like a weird spot. And it took away a little bit. I don't know if there was as many people watching because there were so many other things going on during this day that there probably weren't as many people watching the actual game, which I think is a travesty. They should almost play this one during the week and give everybody the day off. This could be a national holiday. That's how important and how highly regarded I hold these two programs.
And I don't disagree with you. For our next episode, I will dig out and see what the ratings look like throughout the years and see if it did dip. But we're going to put a bow on this. This is definitely a conversation I want to revisit. So, I'm going to put this down in my notes, especially maybe going to the off season and, during
there's
those.
There's going to be a whole bunch of changes once the playoffs over. I think we're going to that first week of February, the NFL is going to be pissed off, but college football is going to steal a lot of headlines that first week after the Super Bowl because we're going to see what they're going to do with the playoff expansion because I do think that it's going to change. It's going to be bigger than 12 teams next year because there's such a big-ass conversation with the SEC, and the SEC did so much goddamn belly aching about it. So I think that there's going to be a lot more to talk about later on after the playoffs over even.
But I'll use some language, fuck the SEC on that. They expanded just like the Big Ten expanded, and it wasn't successful this year. It just wasn't. Some of the expansion teams struggled to make a huge impact, outside of Texas coming into the SEC. Your normal powerhouses, you had Nick Saban in year one of retirement. Of course, the bigger programs are going to take a nosedive. You lost a legend of a coach, and half that team, dismantled and hit the transfer portal. So, for Alabama to sit here and complain, the smaller teams got in over us. Yeah, the smaller teams did, but that was kind of the idea of the expansion anyways, because the same 4 teams get in every year. The same 4 conferences got to get in every year under the smaller first four in bracket. So now we look at this, the 12 bracket, and they did what they were supposed to do as a committee, and now everybody's pissed off about it. You don't have the right to be pissed off about it, in my opinion. You lost what, 3 games for Alabama? I wouldn't complain if Ohio State lost 3 games. It would be what it is.
It's the wildest thing because now they're complaining, saying they're not going to play tough out-of-conference games. They didn't really play any tough out-of-conference games, and they lost to Vanderbilt, Tennessee. Tennessee was their only decent loss, and Oklahoma by 3 touchdowns as a 3-touchdown favorite. That's all we need to say.
Oklahoma struggled going into the SEC, unlike Texas. So
this was not a good Oklahoma team. They sucked on offense, yet they lost by 3 touchdowns. They didn't score a touchdown.
But I want to wrap this up because we're veering off in the deep end. It's so easy to get into. We're veering off in the deep end. ADD. You're not lying. I used to be on Adderall. Oh, can I say that now that I'm medically retired? Yes, I can. But we're going to transition a little bit here. I'm going to take us. Well, no, we'll finish on this. Jimmy, our team here. We're
it's
not
my first
finish.
battle of Ohio.
But the Bengals must win this weekend for Battle of Ohio, and we'll kind of graze a little bit. It was sloppy as hell. It didn't look great. But did the defense get the win, Jimmy? Against Tennessee?
It's tough for me to say that when it looks like Sam Hubbard is not going to be back for the rest of the season after making that play. And, I've heard the conversation that his contract is just going to be making him – he's going to put him in another uniform next year with everything that's going on. I think that I agree that it was very sloppy. And if Joe Burrow agrees that it was very sloppy. I don't know if you've seen the videos of all the lip-reading experts.
Many times.
I think that that is what I wanted out of this team. When I turned on the team, that's what I wanted the reaction to be. And it's taken still another 8 weeks to get to this point, but it isn't good enough to score 40 points and lose every week. That's not good enough. So I don't know why Zach Taylor or whoever that was kneeling down in front of Joe, like, hey, a win is a win. Bullshit. Yeah, a win is a win. We got our ugly win last week. Why can't we put a win out there and play a complete game? Why does it have to be one or the other? Why does the defense have to hold the team under 20 yet the offense sputters? Why? Like, he's asking the right questions. He's trying to figure this thing out. And I think that he's got the most influence over the locker room. It ain't the guy calling plays as the head coach. That's not who has control of this locker room. And I'm glad that Joe Burrow came out and said that, was very open about it on the sidelines, because that team needs to hear that. You can't go through this season with all the expectations and the talent level that's there and be okay with what they put out there on Sunday. That was not a good win against not a good team.
And I agree with you. I'm glad Joe Burrow took some accountability because he was part of the problem. A red zone interception is never really acceptable. A fumble going into the red zone is not a correction. An interception in your own red zone, giving Tennessee a short field, is not acceptable. And a fumble going into Tennessee's red zone was also not acceptable. That's what teeter-tottered the game. If you take away Geno Stone's pick 6, that game's a little tighter than it should be. And maybe it's a different outcome. But to see the secondary, I'm just going to hit it hard on the head. Besides Jordan Battle being an absolute dumbass, a cruise control pick 6, but I'm going to exchange hands when there's no fucking defender around me. Like, I don't know what level, Jimmy, of coaching. You don't even see that on a fucking peewee level. When you have it in your hand, you have it in your hand. You don't put it in the other hand. Running backs piss me the fuck off when they try to do that on the teams that I coach. And to see it on a professional level, especially him coming up from Alabama and being coached by Nick Saban for years, Nick Saban would have lost his ever fucking mind and put Jordan Battle on the fucking bench and maybe put him on special teams.
This coach doesn't have that in him. None of these coaches have that in them, and it is different.
Zach Taylor's a bitch.
He is the biggest beta that's on the sidelines now that Matty Eberflus has been fired. That's the crux of the issue, and I think that's what's going to hold this team back. They'll be able to do whatever they can do. I don't necessarily see this team they're going to have expectations again next year because they have Joe Burrow at quarterback, and they're going to have not T Higgins. They're going to have Jamar Chase for at least another year. And it seems like maybe that is getting itself figured out. And they're going to be able to replace the pieces that they leave. But the coaching staff is just never going to get these guys ready to go at the beginning of the season. So maybe, Burrow made it through one preseason healthy. Now Burrow's going to just take over as the coach. And that scares the ever-loving shit out of me, because if you see what happens in New York when there is no coach that can take charge, this is just the result. You get mediocre seasons.
Aaron Rodgers is past his prime, and he never was really a coach. And the Jets surrounded him with too many friends and not enough professionals. That's a separate situation. I think, you look at a guy that kind of took over as coach in Tampa Bay. His name was Tom Brady. Regardless of the head coach that was, he was kind of out the door himself. But Tom Brady took several teams under his wing as a head coach. You don't straighten somebody like Randy Moss out towards the end of his career, then make him 100% relevant again, and it not work out. I think Joe Burrow has that Tom Brady in him, to where if he has to be the head coach in the beginning of the season, as in locker room accountability, getting on guys' asses, really kind of motivating the team, especially now that he's healthy and now he's making those plays in the pocket, he's extending plays, he's moving up in the pocket, he's doing all those things that he was doing during the 2021 Super Bowl run. When you look at even all the sacks that he took against Tennessee in that playoff game, they won that playoff game because he pushes it. He pushes it. Now he's pushing it every week. So, and the offensive line right now, this is the best offensive line he's had in years. It's just a little beat up. Orlando Browns now missed 3 games in a row, if I'm not incorrect. Cody Ford was out and not available. We had a rookie at left tackle going into the last week's game against Tennessee, which Tennessee was the second-ranked defense in the NFL statistically, Jimmy. So what the offense did wasn't necessarily a pushover when it came to the defense that they were playing. The penalties and operation was absolute bullshit and no excuses there. But what we did offensively, and especially on the ground, getting Chase Brown 90-plus yards on the ground, 100 yards plus overall from the line of scrimmage, getting those backs, getting Gilsecki is now, a regular on the offense when T. Higgins is out there, where in the beginning of the season, T would miss a game, Gilsecki would be great. T would be in a game, Gilsecki wasn't even on the roster when it came to statistics. So now that they got all this meshed together, and I pray to God they give him at least a 2-year deal at the end of this year, because Gilsecki has earned it. But Eric Hall's coming off surgery, and Gilsecki has been there. So we got to get Gilsecki a contract in front of him. I wouldn't even wait past tomorrow, in my opinion. But we got this offense clicking. But to kind of revert back, I was happy to see the defense get involved. Even though Jordan Battle made a bonehead play at the end of it, he still intercepted it. Josh Newton now has his first NFL interception. This is a 5th-round rookie. That's confidence, Jimmy, moving forward, and confidence is contagious. You look at Cam Taylor-Britt got another interception. Now he's rocking. Geno Stone's got 3 interceptions in the last 3 games. Now he's kind of looking like the Geno Stone I want.
It's too little too late. It's too little too late for anything. It's going to look great for next year, and that's what I'm saying. It's going to give us all hope, but it's too little too late for the season. And I know that they're still not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. You mess around. Yeah, I know there's a crazy scenario, but you mess around. There's a
crazy scenario where they get in.
We shouldn't have to be talking about the crazy scenario.
No, I agree.
They messed around too long in the beginning of the season, lost all their important tiebreakers, so now they're in the must-win situations from here on out until next season. I've been saying the joke on my show. They got to win 13 out of their next 7, and they'll make the playoffs this season. That'll be, 13 in the next 4 games that are left. That's how much they got to go. It's just I really don't know what they have to do to get themselves going in the beginning of the season, but it's ridiculous that we continue to have the same conversation. And I think the same thing is going to happen next year until it's proven otherwise. I'm hoping Burrow takes that step, but he hasn't yet, because this team sucks in the first month and a half of the season. They don't get good till October.
But I don't think Burrow, going through his first full training camp, was really validated to take those reins. Even though, he's been a phenomenal, unbelievable, top 10 quarterback in his time when he's healthy. But as a guy that was never healthy in the beginning of the season, you're not, with a bunch of professionals, you're not really validated to take that role. And knock on wood, and I pray to God, he finished this season healthy. He goes into next season healthy and off season. Now you're a proven voice in the locker room. You're not just the paid guy. You're a proven voice in the locker room that can come in and say, okay, I can be your Iron Man this season. Get in line, follow me. Because as somebody, and you've been a player, you can't follow somebody that's been banged up consistently and not been out there consistently in the beginning of the year coming out of the camp. I can't take you seriously.
If I know the history of this team and I know what this guy did in such a very short amount of time with this team, whether he's been able to be healthy, he doesn't. Honestly, I get what Zach Taylor's thinking. Like, he shouldn't have to play, and we should be able to rest him and keep his body healthy outside of the preseason. It should have been a coach's decision to give him all of that sway and that power. And if somebody has a problem with it, you go deal with Zach Taylor. That's what this coaching staff should have been doing, is establishing this, whether he was healthy or not, whether he was going to be on the field or not, because that's a guy that you're paying a lot of money to be that way. So it should have been an established thing. And the fact that it wasn't is, I get what you're saying and I understand it, but if they're going to be successful, they just had to buy in. And if I was on this team, or if I knew anything about this team, I would have bought in when he made that Super Bowl run and an AFC championship to follow it up. You know that he can do it with nothing around him. Why wouldn't you buy into it?
But yeah, I mean, you make a valid point too. Like I said, I'm not trying to bump heads with you 100% on it.
Oh, no.
But I am going to say, if I were a guy that never missed a game in 5 seasons, and somebody that's consistently missed double-digit games before his first contract expired is trying to tell me what to do, I might have, the NFL is nothing but egotistical. So you got to put yourself in that prima donna, egotistical, I'm the fucking alpha male mindset. I think there's still guys in the locker room that didn't take him seriously going into the beginning of the year, regardless of the back-to-back AFC championship games.
I put that on his health, and I also put that on the coaching staff because, a very wise coach that won a championship, won a few college championships, had a rule that if Emmitt Smith fell asleep in the team meeting room, you woke him up, gave him a cup of coffee. Hey, you really need to stay awake for all of this. If somebody else fell asleep in the meeting room, it was walking papers and you were cut. Like I said, if somebody had an issue, I get what the issue could have been with Joe Burrow, but if somebody had an issue with him, you needed to have his back, and you needed to establish somebody else in the locker room to have his back if it came to it, because it's a society. All the NFL is a big giant sociology experiment with a sport attached to it. You have to get inside the mind of these athletes, and you got to trick them. You got to trick them into playing 17 regular season games and not have the possibility of not being able to be eligible for a championship. Because at this point, the Bengals are hoping to finish 9-8 with a crazy ass scenario that somehow gets them into the playoffs, and it might not happen. They might still finish 9-8 and miss the playoffs. That's a very, very real possibility, and probably even closer to a certainty than anything. You have to use all of your tricks and all of your leadership to get these guys to play the way that they need to.
And I agree with that. And hopefully the front office keeps the voices that need to be in there. Like I said, people like BJ Hill, even though he's got 4 sacks on the season.
Imagine if Jesse Bates was there. Jesse Bates would have been a guy that you could put behind Burrow and say, this is the guy that was here when we sucked. We drafted him and he sucked for the first 2 years of his contract. So if he sees what the value that Burrow brings, you better get behind him too. But no, he's not that important. We're just going to ship him off, and then our secondary is not going to be able to communicate whatsoever.
Well, and there's been, the communication's always been piss poor regardless who's been there. But, losing your top 2 corners has been a black eye too, DJ Turner and Dax Hill, when really Dax Hill was having a great year before the injury. And Turner, caught a second interception in 2 games before his injury, where it really looked like he was about to really play on. Then Cam Taylor-Britt, just without those 2 on the field, really just kind of fell apart. His benching and comeback has been nice to see. We know the Steelers one was kind of bullshit, but him making a clean interception last week, being part of that INT party, I know who it was coming from. It was coming from Levis and company, and but they're professional quarterbacks. They're in the NFL for a reason, regardless of what you feel about it. And having Josh Newton be a part of that party, seeing now, Jordan Battle being a part of that party, confidence is contagious. I said losing is contagious, but confidence is also contagious. Just like playing basketball, when you miss so many shots, or, you look at Kirk Cousins right now, for instance, and last night it's 110% in his fucking head. When you start playing bad and people start talking about it, and it's severely highlighted, it gets in your head and it just becomes contagious until you either make a breakthrough or something goes your way. For us, it was the Cowboys game. The fluke went our way. We got the monkey off our back, and now we're seeing a little bit better play from individual players, especially when it comes to the defense. But Battle of Ohio is going to tell me everything I need to know moving forward in my mind.
Because this defense should look very good again, and even if it is Jameis, there should be a lot of turnovers. If it's DTR, this should not be a very stressful Sunday at all. That's where I'm sitting, and I'm saying that, and it sounds like I'm being overconfident, but that's just the truth of the situations. We've talked about the Brown situation, and it got bad because when you bench Jameis after putting him in, like, you have to play Jameis understanding that he's going to throw the interceptions, but you play him because he's going to get your guys to play hard. And I think that he was even showed a little bit. It's got to be tough. I don't know how they've been able to do it ever since coming back as a franchise. When you're bad in Cleveland, and not saying anything bad about the city, but like, the weather is so tough at the end of the year that it's just you lose a lot of motivation, and it seemed like they lost their motivation. So this defense with the Bengals that still have something to play for, because you have to handle yourself before you can worry about any of the other tiebreakers. This should be a fairly easy win, and they should make it that way by taking care of business and handling the situation that they've been gifted at this point in the season.
And I don't disagree with you. I got a 35-21 win. I think the Browns hang up a couple points because we're still a bad defensive line. So regardless, and
Jerry Judy's fast. He's going to get open.
Judy's fast. He's going to get open and make some plays. Jerome Ford will have a couple good runs. But my thoughts do go out. I'll wrap this segment up with I hope Nick Chubb gets better. One more surgery, it looks bad, but you look at Derrick Henry and everything that he's went through. I mean, the man still has metal plates in his feet, and he's made the impossible possible. So hopefully Nick Chubb looks at that story, or the running back from Ohio State over in the Chargers looks at that story. His name's slipping my mind at the moment. Sorry, fans, but J.K. Dobbins, you look at that story, knee surgery after knee surgery after knee surgery after knee surgery, still getting it done. I don't think this broken foot is going to everybody's like, oh, he's going to retire. I don't see it. Maybe he's not going to be a Brown. If the Browns have any respect for him, they'll let him get behind a restructured or great offensive line, much like Tennessee let Derrick Henry go. It was a business decision in Tennessee to let him live out the twilight of his career somewhere else that wasn't rebuilding. So hopefully Cleveland follows suit.
They're not going to let him go. They're not going to let him
Baltimore,
go to the division team.
But if it's a straight release, it could be Baltimore. Never question out. Stranger things have happened.
It's going to be what it's going to be. It's going to be the Steelers.
It'll be the fucking Steelers. Yeah, that was on my mind too. Mike Tomlin has a habit of that they don't really love Najee as much as people think down there. He might be a fan favorite, but the locker room, if they could upgrade over Najee Harris, the upgrade would be there. So make no mistake.
And then Najee just goes to your third down back because he catches the ball a little bit better than Chubb does, and that's not. I feel it makes a lot of football sense, but it does. Maybe it's Philly or one of these other NFC teams. I could see maybe Detroit, because Detroit's done that with like Jamal Williams a couple of years ago. Detroit just lost one of their running backs as well. So you bring in somebody like Nick Chubb and challenge David Montgomery coming off his own injury, that'd be an interesting camp battle. And Dan Campbell would be the guy to get the most out of it. So that would be kind of interesting to see. Buffalo Soldier. You got to reel that in. Dan, you can't throw your balls out there at any point in the game. Onside kicks nowadays at 12 minutes left in the game are just ridiculous. That's just stupid. They knew it was coming.
But well, I got my prediction. I think the Bengals win this 32-21. We handle business. It's a little rough at first, but Cincinnati, slams them when they're down, and we finally see that.
Yeah, I can see 30-13. I think there's going to be touchdowns are going to be hard to come by until the very end of the game when they go into the prevent defense, and DTR will throw one touchdown with like 5 minutes left, and that'll be it.
That's why I'm giving them 21. I think they score. I think they score early, and then they kind of get that garbage because we go in that bend don't break defense when we get ahead. Lou loves to do that. It pisses me off. But
he's a very unaggressive Italian man.
Not as aggressive as he used to be, especially if you look at like his history when he was a defensive backs coach for the Giants and was even on that Giants staff that had really invented the NASCAR pass rush. At the end of Strahan's career, and then when they had Justin Tuck and they had O.C. Minura, and just the list went on and on and on and on. And just to see him not do that here in Cincinnati has been kind of my biggest gripe. Because we've had better pass rushers, and he just keeps the guys on the field too long. I think when I'm a defensive coach, I don't mind making a hockey change. If I know I have 5 or 6 pass rushers, man, I don't mind making a hockey line change in the game to keep people fresh, give people a different look, give an offensive lineman a different assignment, and just Lou sticks to the same it's late in the game. I got these tired ass legs out here. I got to keep Sam Hubbard out here for his 120th snap of the game when he's healthy. And that's really what kind of ran him down. But that's just another conversation for another day. Jimmy, we're going to move on to news and notes here. I'm personally going to give a little shout out to the University of Dayton Flyers taking care of business against number 6 Marquette over the weekend. It really wrapped my Saturday. I was on such a high. I did a little emergency show just to kind of brag on the Navy and UD, just a little 15-minute segment live. Maybe I shouldn't have been live. I was a little intoxicated as well, but that's the love of that's the love of sports that I have. Just they got it done. It didn't look great the first half. It was all Marquette. Marquette came out, really made a statement with their zone defense. Dayton really struggled. Was trying to throw up shots there. Just late in the shot clock, we were taking threes that weren't necessary, but because we had to, we're 2-1 on the shot clock, got to take it. No penetration on the inside, really no tempo coming down the court, and Anthony Grant made the adjustments in the second half. They got faster. It looked a little sloppy in the beginning of the second half, but when you're pushing the ball down and you're trying to make fast transitions, sometimes shit happens. Sometimes you lose the ball. Sometimes you throw it out. Sometimes the guy's not ready to shoot, but the speed is what won it at the end of the day. They really took it to Marquette, sliced through that zone. Marquette got gassed, and Dayton really just kind of outlasted them when it's said and done, because it wasn't by the 3 ball. We only hit 3 out of like 27 threes that we took. It was abysmal, but dominating on the glass on the end and offensive rebounds, and just that's pure will. That's almost like a wrestler's match. At the end, it's you versus you, and when that ball comes down and you're surrounded by a bunch of 6'8" guys, you're just being the bigger guy, and that comes with heart. That's something that wrestlers know all about. That's your world, big time. But big shout out to UD. They took care of business. UNLV gave them a little bit of scare tonight. They had the hangover game. That's what I like to call it. You beat a top 10 team, you get ranked 22nd in the nation. Tonight was a 100% trap game. They almost fell into it. UNLV led for about 25 minutes total. It wasn't looking great, but the better team won. Dayton pulls it out, and they have a huge, huge, huge game against University of Cincinnati at UC Friday, 8 o'clock. I will be at home 110% tweeting this out as it goes. But Jimmy, you're a little bit involved in basketball. We did touch on it, but everything you said kind of came to fruition. We're at home. The crowd really carried them through when it was looking ugly. and they just kind of got them there. What are your thoughts outside looking in?
I just know college basketball because I broadcasted quite a bit of it when I was in college, and it's a totally different game, especially even the different levels that you go in college basketball. But rebounding and having somebody that can dribble when your shots don't work and setting up an offense, because it's a lot more scheme in NCAA than it is in the NBA. And NBA, you rely on offensive talent, and those guys don't suck on defense. Those are just the best scorers in the entire world. That, taking care of business, figuring out a way that you can pull out these tough games in big spots, because it's not so much winning these big games at the beginning of the season, but it's when your conference tournament is coming up and you've been playing for 3.5 months. Like, do you have a set, not a 2-3 zone, but like, do you have something, an identity to fall back on? I talk about it with football teams. We talk about it with wrestlers. Like, you have a situation where you need to score. What is the situation that you're going to put forth? You need to know that. You can't just follow, I'm going to wait for him to take a shot and see what's going to happen. You can't do that. You have to have a setup. You have to know what attack you're going to. You have to have a play drawn up that you call a timeout and go, okay, number 3. We know number 3 is going to work. This is the look that they've been giving to us. We need this in a big situation. Step up, make the play, and go from there. It's coaching and it's effective scheming is what wins at the college basketball level. And add in the crowd factor, knowing how to play as an underdog, knowing that you need to play a little bit more full court press. It's a beautiful situation when it works out the way that it should.
Yes, and Dayton really put that poetry in motion there in the second half. Got it done. Got finally the national ranking, 22nd AP poll. We'll see if that maintains. But college, it's a really any given day. We say any given Sunday or any given Friday or any given Saturday when it comes to football. But basketball is any given night. You just don't know. Playing that many consistent games, if you're going to bring the energy, if you're going to have a hangover.
You got finals around this time too. You got break coming up. Am I going home for break? When do we have to be back for post 2025 workouts? That's what's on your mind at this point in the season. Winning these games around finals in college sports are super difficult. The D1 AA and D2 playoff teams that are still playing right now, hats off to you, because you know how to handle your business, and college basketball teams and college wrestling teams have to learn the hard way. Like, you have to plan around your break, and you have to know sometimes you're just going to have nothing to give. Like, your kids are fried, and you're just going to have to hope. Rely on a little bit of that talent and rely on a little bit of hope and see if you can hold yourself steady going through that break.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Super excited. They play again. They'll be in action on Friday, 8 p.m. against University of Cincinnati. It's going to be two top 25 ranked teams going at it. Really, in my opinion, it's going to make or break the March resume if one of these teams does shitty in their conference tournament come February time. So in my mind, this is for all the marbles to say, hey, if you struggled in your conference tournament, we can fall back on, hey, this is my resume. For Dayton, it's going to be the win against UConn, the win against Marquette. And if they take care of business in Cincinnati and they only lose 1 or 2 games and say they're, a bye week round exit in the Atlantic 10 tournament, which they have a bad habit of doing, they can fall back on that and be like, hey, we can be the first 4 in. We can be that 16 to 12 seed. And this Friday is gonna make it or break it for them, in my opinion. So I think it's going to be their second biggest game of the year before Atlantic 10 play starts the week after. So really hats off to them for scheduling a tough schedule. Being in Maui and now being against UC. So it's going to be fun to see. I think Anthony Grant gets it done. My prediction, and I'll redo my prediction again if I end up doing a show on Thursday. But I think give me Dayton. I think they're going to go in and pull the upset. Give me like a 65-61 win. I think Dayton gets it done on a free throw line. There is a team they're shooting right now 82% on the line, and I think that's just what's going to break the camel's back against UC. So,
yeah, I mean, go in, rebound, be a pest, and never let a ball go uncontested. Fight for the jump ball if that situation happens, and do what you can to stay out of foul trouble, because that's where, when you go up against bigger conference teams, they try and get you in foul trouble because they normally have bigger players and they can just throw it to the big guy on the inside and take up a lot of those team fouls and getting into bonus. And college kids don't always hit their free throws, but if you don't push UC at some point, Cincinnati will be able to rely on their size, their strength, and their ability to draw fouls at the end of the game.
I couldn't agree more, Jimmy. And this kind of wraps up our show. We've talked some college basketball. We talked to our pro teams. We really touched on the Presidential Bowl over the weekend. Joe Burrow's thoughts and where we see the organizations kind of moving forward at this point. It's not. I'm hoping your Denver Broncos go 0-3 these next couple weeks. Really hoping, give me the Christmas wish, please.
Not playing against Anthony Richardson is going to make things tough for them.
Yes, and Cincinnati next week has a head-to-head battle against them, so they have to take care of business against Cleveland first, and then maybe I'll crash your guys' show at the far end of the bench, especially it being Broncos Bengals week. Maybe I'll come on for 2 or 3 minutes if Nico allows it. And
I can just send you the link. Nico has to deal with whoever I get to show up because he's given me full producer keys and he knows that I know this from my college experience. So I could just sneak you the link. We don't have to make it a big deal. Just to fair warn you, I've been doing this thing on that show where I wear something Broncos and something Bengals. So you will see me rocking both sides because I am still pissed off. I am still a little upset with how this team came out and started. And the Broncos, if I'm looking at it as a coaching perspective, and I guess for my news and notes, that game that they won was not Bo Nix. That was the worst game that he's played, and that was the first time since the Baltimore game that he really looked like a bad rookie quarterback. That was a coaching and a defense and just taking advantage of the mistakes when you know that they're going to come. I was texting people, Anthony Richardson's going to make you eat your words. Nah, he's guaranteed 2 picks. Oh, look at that. 2 picks from Anthony Richardson. A fumble. That was extra. Wasn't expecting that. And then the double pass in that situation. I know that Anthony Richardson can catch it and go, but why? You had so much else working for you. Jonathan Taylor, what are you doing? Thank you for taking the heat off of our guy. Thank you very much for taking the heat off of our guy because that's the play of the game in that situation. That killed the Colts. Nico said it's a franchise-altering moment. This is a playoff opportunity and a future-altering moment. Like, you had everything. They were going to go up 20-7 if he just holds on to the ball for a split second longer.
A little bit longer.
AFC playoffs are wild. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens, brother. And on that note, go ahead and when can they catch you guys on Far End of the Bench next?
Next live show is going to be Thursday. I'm going to be dropping some of the segments from our most recent show yesterday. If you haven't, 211 dropped last night on our channel at FEOTB Pod. It's on X. It's on YouTube. It's on all the audio platforms that you can listen to. And then we'll be live again Thursday for our Bowl Pick'em, playoff Pick'em show. I have to change that. I've been saying Bowl Pick'em for 4 years. I've been doing a show for 4 years. So now 5th annual postseason show. And I'm looking at the crown right now. We pass around a crown. Nico didn't come over and collect it. I forgot to pass it off at some of the games that we've gone to together. I'm hoping that thing stays right where it is. And then you're going to see me wearing that bitch for an entire year after. I'm going to have to go get some earbuds because my head is big enough that it's just going to be the crown. And that's all.
Got to do the little Ron James.
It's going to be the crown. And that's all I'm going to be wearing because I'm going to be like the emperor. Oh, I thought I was wearing the finest silks.
I respect it, Jimmy. I hope it happens for you. Maybe I'll throw in some of my picks in the comment section. We'll have some fun with it.
Please
here.
Do. Everybody should go join in the comments because we're going to talk about all the teams that made the playoff, and we're picking all the rounds before any of the playoff games happen. So there's likely to be. I'm going to make a compilation. I've picked like 4 or 5 different national champions. I'm not going to give away who my national championship pick is.
It's not in your pocket now.
It is in my pocket. It is not a team that I've selected so far.
Okay.
I will say that. It is not a team that I have picked in any of those other shows. It's all back. That's why I've been making the videos. So I have backlog content. So if you are new, if this is the first time that you've seen me on this show and you haven't gone over and argued about Ohio State in my comments, go do so. Just make sure you subscribe and like the video. Tell a friend to check out the show. Check out this show as well. I enjoy doing my weekly hit on this one. I'm the Aaron Rodgers of Ohio. I'll take it. I guess I can take it.
Jimmy, we love you here. We got up to 58 live viewers tonight. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. Thank you to Out of Rhythm Fantasy for getting in the comments section. Without you guys, there's no me. I love doing this. I've been doing this now for about 2 years. Definitely, I made some great friends. Jimmy is included in that. We talk offline when we can. We go back and forth. We share a little bit of life experiences. You really get everything from this industry. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But this has been Jordan and Jimmy with Ohio Sports Talk and Far Into the Bench. Good night, everybody. God bless. And we'll see a combination of either my show or his show. One way or the other. We will see you on Thursday. Check us out. Get in the comments. Get on our Twitter pages. Both accounts interact with fans on a regular basis. We love mixing it up. I love putting Browns fans down. Get in the comments. Jimmy loves starting it with Ohio State fans. It's what we do.
Go Blue!
Any other way. But this has been Ohio Sports Talk. We love you guys and have a good night.